This is round one of the Rhode Island State Championship. I'm from Pennsylvania, and I am trying to play in all 50 states and get to 2200 eventually. I'm getting further and further away as the days go on. And I'm playing a young Asian kid in the first round who's an expert. The time control is game in 45 plus 10 seconds per move. So like an interesting time control because it's like short because it's under an hour per side, but plus 10 can be very, very nice, especially for someone who flags like me and is very, very slow. So I like time control. It's 4 rounds in 1 day, so interesting for a state championship, but I'm glad I'm able to play. So I'm just gonna hop right into here. If you haven't seen the video, I actually recapped the event as it happened round by round. I'm just going deeper into the game analysis one by one. Okay, so this is round one, and I play e4, and he plays the French. I'm always happy to see the French because I play the advanced variation, and I play a line where I actually gambit the pawn for activity and development. Very, very nice, and it really destroys class players. However, he's not a class player, so it gets a lot not good for me. Okay, he plays c5, I play c3, all pretty normal stuff. We're both developing. And after I play bishop d3, he actually trades on d4. If he doesn't trade on d4 and plays bishop d7 first, then I can take on c5, and this is known to be slightly better for white. But instead, he knows his move orders and trades on d4 now, and the difference is that after I castle, he can just take. And the reason why he couldn't take first, he can't take now, is because, of course, there's a discovered check, picking up the queen. So he has to block the diagonal towards his king first, with the bishop, and then take on d4. And now this is a full pawn sacrifice. There's a full pawn sacrifice, and the idea is that if he takes my knight, like he did in the game, and tries to develop his other knight, well, now my bishop develops with tempo. Please take a second pawn, so I get an open file for my rook, and I can take your own b pawn. But he brings his queen back. I put my rook on the open file, move the knight out. I play h4, move the bishop out, h5, and I played this opening a decent amount of times online and a few times over the board, and everyone always goes h6. They're like, I don't want white to play h6 because, let's say you just play like a move like a6, and then, I play h6 myself, and now you got, your Swiss cheese set up on the side of the board potentially. So everyone always plays h6. He actually just castled. And I was like, oh, that's really interesting. H6 still is not a bad move. I didn't play it, but h6, I don't think that's a bad move. However, you're not going to break through on this side of the board. I think it's just like, I have a lot more space in center and on the king side. However, this is closed. With this, I'm never going to checkmate him, checkmate his king. So that's his argument. That he's still up a pawn at the end of the day. As the person that's down a pawn, I have to prove it. I have to prove well, why am I down a pawn? I have to either have really good pieces, or sustain extra space, or attack his king effectively. I really have to prove it. And I think castling was just kind of a mild surprise for me, and I already knew that I didn't want to play h6. I didn't want to play h6 because then he just locks it up. So after he castled, I had a few ideas. One was just to play a3 and just say, hey, your knight's never gonna move out over here. But I didn't see the point in playing a3. I know a lot of times it's very useful to play it, but I just wasn't sure why I was doing it. Another move I thought about was bishop e1, just to go queen d3 or queen c2 and threaten checkmate. And I was like, you're fine to me. And I thought for a long time here. I actually thought for move 15. I thought for about 9 minutes. I thought for about 9 minutes on this move. Because I really wasn't sure what to play. Because I was calculating bishop e1, and if he goes move like rook c8, and it's easy, queen d3, and it's not so easy to defend. He could play g6, but now I could potentially just take the g pawn, or I don't have to as well. Yeah, this is actually not thinking about it out loud right now. Like, yeah, this was actually one of the things I wasn't sure about. Like, if he just plays rook c8, I go here and he goes g6. Like, have I really improved my position? Like, I'm just not 100% sure if I have improved my position. One good thing about this though is that it's going to be harder for him to play f5, which is which is the main pawn break in this position. Because, you know, he wants to get his pieces active, but how do you do that? Well, it's usually by playing f6 or f5 and hoping I take on passant. So, like, it's usually how you do it. So, the main thing I was thinking about, though, alternatively, other than rook c8, was, like, f5. And I was like, okay, well, I take, and if he takes like this, well, that's easy. Now I go queen d3, and now g6 is not possible because he has one less defender on it. And I'm just attacking h7, and if he goes here, well, now it's a very simple and common mate, like here, very very common checkmate, in French, and so I was like, okay, well, so if I go, you know, if I take here, then he'd go rook takes, and I go here, and then he can go rook f5, attacking the pawn and blocking the mate. So if I just move my queen here, for example, then he can just take, and I was like, what am I doing here? Why is this rook on the square? That doesn't look that bad. Why am I losing a second pawn? What do I have to show for all of this? And the answer is not much. I don't think I have much to show for this. I don't think this is very good for me, genuinely. So bishop e1 and queen e3 just looks pretty dumb. So I was like, okay, bishop e1. You know, it took me a while to figure out that's just a dumb move. And so I ended up just playing a simple move, rook e1. Putting this rook is usually useful on the e file for a couple of reasons. One is because, you know, I'm x-raying my own pawn, so I'm adding defender, and a lot of times black will go f6 or f5, and after I take en passant, this rook controls the e5 square. So usually, if black gets in e5, like, because he plays f5 the next move, and I take en passant. Like, if I don't take en passant, he has, like, I have no attack. Like, he has extra space now in the center. I have absolutely no attack on his king. And yeah, it's not very pleasant. Like, it's not very, very pleasant. He can even go f4 in some cases, kicking back my bishop. So that doesn't look too good. So that's why I take en passant. And now, because my rook is now on an open file and helping control the e5 square once this bishop moves. And so this happens in the game. So he takes the bishop, I my pawn, and I decided to go bishop c5. That was my solution. We'll just go bishop c5. And, you know, I'm still down a pawn. You know, after all this, I'm still down a pawn. And now he has this big center, you know. Like, I have the open C, D, and E files, but he has these D and E pawns that can start rolling down the board. If he gets E5 in, then E4 is a huge threat, you know. So if he gets E5 in successfully without hanging a pawn, then it's like, really tough. He goes bishop e7, and I think for a long time here. And I end up deciding to go bishop e1. And this is okay. I did check the engine up to this point. I'll tell you when I stopped looking at it. So I usually do these game recaps without looking at the engine first. But in this case, I did want to make sure I didn't blunder anything in the opening. And so far, the position is like roughly balanced, you know, to a low depth engine. So, you know, to a low depth engine, you know, openings don't really matter what it says. It's a low depth engine and open complex. But so, like, it's just roughly equal, like roughly balanced, you know, for the most part. But this is where I start getting really bad. Bishop e1 is probably not the best move. Here, I should probably just trade. And maybe expand with a move like b4. No, b4 would be bad. Wait, b4 could be good. I actually don't know. My idea is that if they take, then I can, you know, get my rook into the game. Rook on the 7th is really good, and then even if he trades here, that's fine. His bishop is still bad, and my rook is really good. So I could do something like that potentially. Just be down 2 pawns, but really active rook. But instead of that, you know, I thought mainly after bishop takes e7, I thought the queen takes e7. I thought about this move once again, bishop e1, and I was like, this could be good. This could be really good. And bishop e1 also stops him from playing e5. Not that he would want to play it right now anyways, but if he did ever play e5, then the d5 pawn would be hanging with check. So actually my queen x-rays this pawn, this d5 pawn in a lot of cases. Really useful. Another thing to note here as well, that if he takes, I do have in like all cases, I can at a bare minimum take on h7 and go queen c2 check to pick back the bishop if I don't want to take the rook on. That's also an idea too. Okay, anyways. But yeah, with bishop e7, and I was trying to calculate bishop e1 and queen d3 again. I forgot what I decided, what I was thinking about. I think maybe like if rook c8, then queen d3, and if rook f5, then I have a cool move like bishop take or queen takes rook because of the pin. And I was like, yeah, I can do this. And I'm like, I'm still down a pawn actually. That was actually a horrible, useless thought. Like, very useless thought. So I don't even know what I was expecting here. Like, that wasn't even good. But it was an idea, I guess. So bishop e1. After trading or before trading, but I did before trading bishop e1 now because I think this is supposed to be slightly different. I do forget why. Oh wait, I don't remember why I thought this was better. Well, during the game I know I wasn't sure. Like, do I trade first? I go bishop e1 first? Like, what do I do? And at this point we're both getting kind of low on the clock here. After bishop e1, I had 18 minutes. So after bishop c5, I had 33 minutes. After bishop e1, I had 18. I used like 15 minutes. That's bad. Bad. So I think it was a sign that I was kind of lost here. He was spending a lot of time on his move too. So actually after bishop e1 and bishop takes c5, he had 19 minutes. So we were both spending a lot of time. He played queen f6 though, which makes sense. Putting your queen on the open file, connecting rooks. And if I move, this knight it is pinned. So if I move my knight, then he takes on f2 with check. That's not pleasant. And I get him going queen e3, which forces him to play the only move queen h6. And my reasoning behind this was that after knight e5, he can take, and I take, and my point is, his bishop is still bad. I'm still down a pawn. However, I'm defending everything. And even though my bishop is also bad, I think my bishop still has more potential than his, and so this position is decent for me. So I think that was the reason why I chose to play the way I did. I mean, that was a horrible reason. Horrible. Rook a8. He just puts a rook on the open file. What's his worst piece? This rook. He improves it, puts on the rook open file, and I'm actually toast. The game's over. Maybe not literally, but like pretty much literally. If my first thought was, oh, queen c3, that's not that bad, because after it takes, oh shoot, it's losing. Because I was like, rook c8, I can just go here, attack the bishop, and maybe I can go check and pick up the bishop and cause havoc. I was like, oh no, I just lose because of check here, and after check here, I lose the rook. So let's say I go g3, except no, I'm probably getting checkmated, but maybe not. I didn't think this far ahead. I thought I just lose a rook, which is true. I do lose a rook. And if he gets greedy, I get a nice checkmate here out of nowhere. But he's not gonna get lazy. After here, he might just go 6. No, that blunder's a perpetual. No, that blunder's mate still. Well, he doesn't have to take my rook. Oh, he can just take here with check. Duh. And then it's mate like this. Simple. So I was like, oh man, I'm toast. I'm toast actually. Because he has really good control of the c1 square. And more than that, this bishop on b1 is always subject to forks. King and bishop forks on the back rank. I'm like, oh my gosh, everything is hanging. Everything's hanging. It is not comfortable. It's not comfortable here. So, I thought down to like 30 seconds or whatever it was, because I realized that my position is bad, and I come up with one small idea. One small idea to maybe keep me in the game here, and that's to trade the pair of rooks. And I don't want to go rook e1 because that's just too sad. Like, he wins the second pawn. He's gonna, like, maybe he doesn't even take that pawn. Maybe he plays rook c1 first. Because if I take and he takes with check, then his queen's in my position and I'm really uncomfortable. So I thought, okay, I'm gonna play rook e3, cutting off the queen's attack, vision on the c1 square. And if he goes for rook c1 check and king h2 and queen takes h5, now I have rook h3. And now I'm counterattacking him. And so I thought what he was going to do is, okay, he's going to go queen 5 check, and then I'm going to block, and now he doesn't have a good response to guard h7. If he plays h6, I'm going to go check, and and if here, then I'm going to go check, and if here, I'll figure it out. I'll figure it out. This is definitely losing. This is definitely losing. But I got to try something here. Like, maybe I would try this first. And aha, he has no checks. He has no checks against me. Yay. And I have threats here. And of course he goes g6, and I have rook takes h7. Like, woohoo, yeah, rook takes h7. Awesome. Still no checks against me. So life is pretty good. He could probably sacrifice the rook, maybe. After takes, then check, takes. Oh wait, no, that doesn't work. I'm up a tempo. But anyways, dumb thought. Okay, but point is, I rook takes h7 if he plays g6, and h6 it looks complicated. But instead of that, he just goes queen f5, and that was a buzzkill. I was like, ah, shoot. I mean, I knew I was losing anyways, but like that kills the game immediately. I thought like, oh, maybe rook takes h7 now, but then he can just like take. And it's not super comfortable, to say the least. And like, this geometry is crazy. With like, what, like the rooks have both snuck past each other of the queen's corners here. Wild. Anyways, so I trade, and I play bishop d3 because my bishop was hanging. He plays rook a1, and I was like, wow, that's so strange to have this rook being such a menace to the a pawn. I really can't defend it. If I go a3, he goes rook a2, which I'm like, how is this rook not trapped? But it's completely fine here. If I go b4, for example, he takes on a3. I have no discovered checks against his rook. If I go here, he can just take, and then now I'm just like down, 5 versus 3. I'm just dead losing. And so there's no way for me to defend all my pawns here. So I just it's after rook a1. I centralize my rook. And he takes, I go rook e5. By this point, I've stopped notating, 5 moves back or something like that. He takes here. I go king g3 to defend my f2 pawn. And then he defends one of his pawns. I go here. He goes here. And I go check, and check. And eventually, I play f3. I don't know if this move order is correct because I stopped notating. And then he plays a5. And I did not resign here. I kept playing it out to try to get something going, but nothing worked. I mean, I'm dead lost. He has two passed pawns on the other side of the board. Like, there's nothing I can do. I cannot hope for anything. I'm just die and die. So that's what happened. My only hope would be if he plays b5, and then I can go check, and pick up bishop, and then pick that bishop. But even then, that's still losing. So, anyways. This was the first game that I wasn't upset about. This is the first game that I've lost in months and months of playing where I'm not upset at myself. Because for me, I chose a pretty hard opening in the sense that I have to prove it. Like, I have to prove the pawn disadvantage. I'm down a pawn. And he was just like, he was literally just like, okay, you're playing h4, h5? Prove it. Like, why should I be scared? You're doing nothing over there. And he just, pushes the pawn forward, and basically forced me to trade, activates his pieces, trades a piece off because he's up a pawn, and then, connects his rooks, defends up his pawn, trades a piece, centralizes a rook, and that was it. Like, his play was so simple. His play was so simple, and I was the one that really made it hard for myself. Like, he just played normal moves, and I mean, like, not to discredit him, like, he did a great job in this game, but yeah, like, just how simple his play was really, not mind blowing, but just like he just right, like this bishop e1 and queen e3 maneuver was like really really bad. I do know one thing that the engine was suggesting instead of queen d3 was this really interesting move, getting the pawn out of the vision of the queen, threatening to play b5 and infiltrating. So if knight takes, then I'm going to go rook c7, forking the bishop and the pawn, and then bishop c6 or something like that. Well, then I forgot. I could just do something. Oh, I can play bishop takes, king takes, and e1 check to pick up this knight. And now I have a very active rook. And it's not too easy for him to make all the moves, if that makes sense. For example, if d4 here, attacking my knight, I should be able to just take on d4. Because if he takes my knight, then I can just take, and take, or take. And life is looking pretty good. It's probably going to be a draw. Probably. So, yeah, that was... So I have a really interesting move b4 here. But he can probably just centralize a rook. Probably just centralize a rook, and maybe now I can play b5 and queen c2, or maybe I play queen c2 now, or maybe I can play h6. Well, not now. Actually, I traded my dark square bishop, but yeah, the game goes on. But I do think White's moves are harder because I sacrificed the pawn, and he's just been playing solid chess. So I'm not upset about this loss. I don't think I did anything stupid. He just played simple moves that were better than mine. So, it does suck to lose in the first round, but it is what it is. Hey, Rhode Island State Championship. What can I expect? And he is actually from Rhode Island. His state affiliation is Rhode Island. So that was. But yeah, that was the first game. I'm going to hit the game review, and I'll see you guys for round 2.